and welcome to Catacris Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.catacris.com. My name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and today we're going to be speaking with the drummer, producer, songwriter Steve Luongo. Am I pronouncing your name right, Steve?
Yeah, that's it's Luongo. It's 6 of one is half a dozen of the other, but
okay.
That's fine. Steve Luongo is fine.
Okay, now again, today we're talking to you, of course, about the new John Entwistle solo album that just came out on Deco Entertainment called Rarities Oxhumed Volume 1. Now, I seen that on 7 of the 13 tracks you're listed as a writer, and so let me ask you, when was the point when you first started working with John?
1987. We met at a NAMM show, a summer NAMM show, summer of '87 in Chicago. We played together. We did a set at a jam. They have a big jam for every NAMM show. There's a big all-star jam, and so we were part of that. We enjoyed playing together. After the show, we hung out, and then I was leaving, and he gave me his number and said, "Stay in touch," which I did. And over the next couple of months, we just talked back and forth about what we might do. And then I got a call from one of the guitar companies asking if we would join up with K-Rock and do the K-Rock and Roll Up Sleeve Blood Drive, which was, I think, that following November.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we said yes, and then that, so that resulted in a handful of tour dates, and it sort of cemented my friendship with John, and worked together ever since.
Okay, right up until his death, I'm assuming then, is that correct?
That's correct.
Oh, wow. And so let's talk about the new album now. I'm assuming these are tracks that he recorded over years for one reason or another, as most artists do, and not every track you record makes it onto the album. Is that kind of what this is?
Well, that's part of what it is. Yeah. It's a little deeper than that in the regard that the tracks that are on there, most of the studio tracks that are on there were written for, or wound up being used for, ultimately a kids show.
Oh. We
had done a demo looking for a traditional record deal, and a couple of the songs that are on Oxhumed were in that demo, and we wound up not getting a traditional record deal. We were offered a television show.
Oh, wow.
And to do the soundtrack. It was a kids show, animated / live action, sort of cutting edge CGI, Saturday morning show, and so we couldn't use songs like "I Wouldn't Sleep with You,"
Okay,
that doesn't fly on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
So that one just didn't get used at all. But "Left for Dead," which was also on the demo, we rewrote the lyrics, because in the version that's on the record now on Oxhumed, it talks about death, and everybody in the thing dies. There's some foul language here or there, but so we had to re-record the lyrics that were suitable for the show, and I love this version, and especially with the long run out at the end, where we're jamming on "My Wife." So I thought the fans, should hear that, and then there's a couple of other things on there that were used on the TV show, and they should be heard either the way they were originally mixed, or whatever version it is. So that was, that's what gave way to all the studio tracks. And
so let me ask you, how did this project come together? I understand what it is, but what I mean is, was this a matter of Deco Entertainment coming to you, or did you go to them and say, "Hey, I got a great idea for this record"? Tell us a little bit of the backstory, if you can.
Sure. It's actually it's a great backstory. When the pandemic hit, all of my friends, up and down the ladder, all started doing live streams and whatever. And being a drummer, I don't. My instrument doesn't lend itself to a live stream, but I love to get into a good conversation about the business. So I started a show where it's just you, like what we're doing here. It's on Zoom, and you know how it goes. And I have a deep phone book that goes around the world, and half those people I haven't spoken to in 30 years.
Oh, wow.
If I called them up out of the blue and said, "Hey, man, it's me. How you doing?" I'm not going to have the same conversation that I would if I ran into them on the road. You know. So I have my showrunner, Angus McEachern, reach out to their email and tell them Steve's got a show and it's about reconnecting and And I have caught up with more of my friends in the past, almost 3 years.
Yeah.
It's been just amazing. So how Deco happened is, I like to have interesting artists. I shouldn't say nobody wants to hear another Rod Stewart interview, but you've pretty much heard what Rod has to say. There's another 30 people involved in that story that those are the people I want to talk to.
Oh, sure.
So I happened to be talking to Charlie Calv on the show. He was a guest. He's the current keyboard player in the band Angel.
Oh, wow.
And it turns out that Charlie is involved with this label. He's one of the executives, and it seemed to me to have a label run by a guy that's in the business, in our end of the business.
Oh, sure.
That at least is going to put a good spin on it. And come to find out, I must have a half a dozen or more friends that are already signed. So we had a casual conversation, and he said, whatever you want to do, we're interested. And so you have to realize that I did this album because for the past 20 years, I've been asked on occasion, is there anything else going to be released? Do you guys have anything that you didn't put out? Can we hear anything? And, the short answer is yes, but I wasn't in the space to really be able to get behind something like that. I had to finish a live album right after John passed, which I really didn't like doing. And this one I wanted it to be respectful, but I wanted it to be respectful to the fans. I wanted to give them something, more than they have, if I don't put this out. So I went into the archive and picked out things that I thought that they would get and understand. And, it's been... this was easier than anything. I finished the film years ago, but this was more fun.
Naturally.
It was more fun. So the whole process of doing it, I pretty much did it by myself. It's not like I have anybody else here.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was meeting Charlie on my show and then having a conversation off air and telling him, I have this archive.
Yeah, so, Deco is one of my favorite labels that's popped up in the last couple of years, because you're so right. I mean, I guess that's part of their success, is having a guy that's an actual musician, who's behind the label, and I really have not seen a label really push their artists in their releases like this one does. And I mean, a great example of that is another legendary drummer, Carmine Appice, to sign to the label, and they released a solo album, Guitar Zeus, which oddly enough was a album he did about 25, 30 years ago that was centered around all these great guitar players that recorded different tracks. And it never got a proper push here in the United States. It was huge like in Japan and other countries. But I mean, all these years later, it's getting like a proper release, and that album was for the first time really getting the push it deserves here in the United States, and people are kind of hearing it for the very first time.
Yeah, well, Carmine's obviously well known.
Yeah.
He was involved in a lot of great projects, and that's kind of the way I felt about Oxhumed. I just didn't want these things left on the floor. There's as long as I know that there are people that want to hear it, I've got plenty to draw from, and Deco seems to be a good home, so we're all happy.
And I'll tell you, I don't know, it's a great label, and it's also a great time, I guess, to be releasing such an album as this. I think it's kind of the ultimate tribute to John, and what I mean by that is, who out there isn't, of course, a fan of The Who, but so very often when people think of The Who, right away they think, Pete Townsend. They think Roger Daltrey, the singer, and then Pete's the guy that wrote all the songs. But to me, John Entwistle kind of was I don't know, the secret weapon, if you will, of a guy that really kind of quiet, never got noticed. But on an album like this, John, he really shines. And if you go and you listen to every single track on them, like, wow, this guy, he really, this is just, I guess, his latest solo album or whatever. But it's a great collection of tunes.
Well, it's the purpose behind it, Jason, was to shine a little bit of a light on the part that everybody didn't get to see, and hopefully open his catalog and his sound and his accomplishments up for a whole new generation of people. Not everybody was born listening to the Who.
Of course, yeah.
And as you say, and rightfully so, Pete is the one. You put on CSI, you hear Pete. So Pete is probably the most prolific. And John used to say, you had Keith was the maniac, and Pete was the intellectual, songwriter. Roger was the rock star face.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Well, actually, you're going to stand there and blow everybody away, which is exactly what he did.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because, Keith Moon, as you say, he was a big part of the Who too, and John was kind of off to the side. And oddly enough, I want to ask you about the song Bogeyman, which is, I think, the first single off the album, and it's a great track, features the late, great Keith Moon. What do you know about that track?
Well, I know as much as there is to know about it. I apologize.
That's all right.
We were looking for songs. You talk about Guitar Zeus and things that were unreleased. We were looking for songs for this kids show, right? Because now, instead of getting a regular record deal and putting out a rock record, which is what we wanted to do, we had to stick with that sound, but create a catalog. 14. It was 13 songs, one for each episode, and then a theme song. And we had to stay within the constraints of kids stuff.
Okay,
So Bogeyman, what John and I did, and what ultimately resulted in me being able to put out these rarities, is we traded catalogs. I went to England. We spent a couple of weeks writing songs and doing whatever we were doing, and he gave me all of his demos, and I gave him all of my demos.
Wow.
And whatever else, I already had the rest of our catalog and so on and so forth. So I'm listening to the tracks, and I'm in England when we're doing the demo thing, and he plays Bogeyman, which originally was just bass and drums, and then John singing. And I said, "Who's playing drums?" And he said, "I don't remember. I don't know." And I said, "I think it's Keith Moon." And he said, "Yeah, it's him."
Oh, wow.
Well, because if you listen to it, and you got to realize that without the overdubs, without all the guitars and all that stuff all over it, the drums are just unmistakably Keith Moon.
Yeah.
So I said, well, we should do, what is this? And he said, it's a demo that I did for the Who, but they thought it was too humorous and they passed on it, so I never finished it. I said, well, we should finish it. And keep Mooney on the drums, add your bass and your vocals are all fine, so you don't really have to do anything. Let me orchestrate the thing and get the other guys to play on it, and we'll build it up into a track, which is the track that you hear now. And that's,
let me ask you, Steve, now, you're listed as a songwriter on, like I said, 7 of these tracks. So I was curious, how involved with you as far as the writing? I mean, did you just strictly write your drum parts, or did you help with the lyrics?
Oh no, I was, like I said, the way we went after all of the stuff that we did originally, the things that I'm credited on are probably things that I brought to the table.
Oh, okay.
And then, John would, that's how we kind of did it. If John wrote, I think it's called Darker Side. I think Darker Side of Night is on this record.
Yes.
That was a John song, and he came to me and asked me for a couple of words or lines in a song, which in my mind didn't constitute songwriting. And so he went and did that. He went and we did that song credited to John only. But then when we wrote together, whether he brought it in or I brought it in the case of Horror Rock isn't on this record, I'm sure. Okay, in the case of I'll Try Again Today, that was a song that I wrote.
Okay.
I wrote most of the lyrics and most of the music, and John and I wrote the intro and the outro, which is that kind of Latin sort of thing. And then, we changed a bunch of lyrics. He instead of shoots and ladders, it says like a game of snakes and ladders, and that's the game in England. So it was just whatever we wanted to do, whatever made sense. That's really what we did. So if I could contribute to his stuff, I certainly would. He was always welcome to contribute to mine, and it was a very fair playing ground. It was really as good as it could be.
And again, the reason I bring that up or ask is because to me, when talking about any music, I mean, to me, the key for any kind of real success is the songwriting. And typically, drummers don't get involved a lot with the songwriting. I mean, you do have people such as, we mentioned Carmine Appice, Roger Taylor from Queen, Don Henley from the Eagles. And so a lot of times when a drummer does get involved with the writing like that, they are super talented, person, because again, it just like kind of adds to the resume, which is kind of interesting in talking to you today, Steve, because I'll be honest, I'd never heard your name. I wasn't really aware of you, but in prepping for the interview, I went online, I did some research, I found out, oh wow, in addition to working with John Entwistle, you work with everybody from Leslie West, Jack Bruce, Eddie Money, Alan Parsons, Todd Rugg, and Ann Wilson, Robin Zander, and I think to myself, how the hell is it that I was not aware of this guy,
Well, the truth is, and the truth is this. Yeah. There are so many guys out there. How can you possibly know everybody?
Yeah.
I mean, all right, Xander, Robin and I were partners in that band for around 3 years. So we were out, but we weren't doing high-profile gigs. We did a couple of things where we opened for REO Speedway, and then we did a double-night Christmas show at the Arcada Theater in Chicago. But it's, and even when I did the thing with Cliff and Brian from AC/DC, we recorded in the studio for a couple of months. We decided we wanted to go out and do a little tour. We did a handful of dates, and then AC/DC got back together and did Black Ice, and that was the end of that. So, when your bandmates are in bands like AC/DC, The Who, Cheap Trick, it's kind of understood that you're not going to be, the brightest bulb in the lamp, I guess.
And yet, in talking, I can tell you, in just the research I've done, like I may not have known your name before today, but I do now, and I am going to go check out, some of the stuff that you were involved with, just because it's kind of a cool thing to like discover. And I was kind of curious, maybe being a songwriter and musician, you can answer this for myself. And talk about AC/DC, for example. On their latest album, which is kind of, I think, their best album in years. What's interesting is Malcolm Young, of course, died sadly a couple years back, but he does not play a lick on the new album. But I think maybe because I've heard Angus Young talking about many of the new songs on their latest album were based on riffs he and Malcolm wrote, and it's amazing that Malcolm Young doesn't play a lick on the album, but maybe because they're based on his riffs, you can, in a way, still feel his influence.
And Stevie's not on that record? Stevie Young?
No, Stevie is, but I'm saying, Malcolm Young, I would just...
No, I understand, but those guys are so tight, the brothers, and the whole family. I mean, it's that whole thing is a family thing. So it wouldn't surprise me that, Stevie would get Malcolm, after all those years. It's not Malcolm, but, it is in the genes. So, yeah, I mean, listen, you give birth to a sound like that and a musical direction like that, and it takes on a life of its own.
And so, here's another interesting question, because oftentimes when you hear about, an album like this being released, either like the record company owns the rights to this stuff, or you have to get permission from, the estate or the family. Is the fact that you were able to do this because you were a writer on all this stuff, or talk a little bit about that, because that kind of is, I think, an interesting kind of backstory to a project like this as well.
Well, it's John and I, throughout our working relationship and friendship, we were business partners.
Oh,
so
great.
Everything that we did together was shared equally, or whatever, however it would go. And when John passed, there was nobody to really run his catalog or to run our catalog.
Oh, great.
And I had remained close with his mom, Queenie, and with his son, Chris. I've known Chris since he was 16 years old. So anything that I ever did, I used to talk to his mom at least 2, 3, 4 times a month, just to kind of stay in touch. And Chris and I, would do various bits of business over the years. So it was kind of there's kind of an understanding.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah.
That I have this license to go out and pursue things that I think are worthy of John and his legacy and so on and so forth. And now that Queenie's gone, it's really just Chris and myself. But I don't do anything without Chris. It's regardless of whether I have the right to or not.
I got you.
John's an icon. He's a part of music history that can't be denied. You just don't want to screw that up.
And that's the cool thing about this release. Like it doesn't seem like it's being put out there, like to cash in on. If you know what I mean. It seems like to me, like I said, earlier, a great tribute to John, or at least like reminding people of what he did outside of the Who. And what makes this fun too is it's not like just John Entwistle greatest hits collection of tunes everybody's heard before. So it's like we're still kind of getting a new album, stuff that not a truckload of people have heard before.
Right, and with regard to John and his sound and his music and his compositions, his stuff is timeless.
Yeah.
If you hear it tomorrow for the first time, maybe it just came out, maybe it's 20 years old. That's just the beauty of John. He kept pushing and refining his skills to the end.
And of course, if you didn't know that John had passed on, a number of years ago, this, to fresh set of ears, it sounds like this was music that maybe was just written or recorded. Of course, we know it wasn't, but what I mean is, a lot of times when you're releasing stuff that's 20 or 30 years old, it sounds kind of dated. And this these songs do not have that feeling,
Yeah, well, it's true to the sound that he wanted to create. I mean, sonically, it is, all the most important parts of John, and and the record is certainly was put out there, like I said, to add to a legacy that's already huge by releasing something new or unheard.
Yeah, and I know when John passed away, he was on tour. He was on tour with the Who, but do you remember how you first heard of his death, and what that was like?
Yeah, I remember very well. I was the only one. I was the only one involved in that wasn't out on the road. I mean, I wasn't touring with the Who. John and I were still doing business together, and I remember I rang him up 12 o'clock that day. 12 o'clock it would have been 12 o'clock his time in Vegas, 3 o'clock my time, and I spoke to his assistant, and I said, listen, I don't, who's I guess down by the pool or having lunch. I said, listen, I really need to talk to him because I've got some business and I need to get it done. So could you please
check on
get him up, have him call me? And he said, sure. And he went up, and then the assistant called me back and said, our boy's in trouble. The coroner's on the way. Well, the coroner doesn't come for anything other than
death. Yeah, wow.
Which was like, so I knew immediately what was going to be happening there, because this was the night before the tour began.
Oh yeah, that was right. And you know,
he had done an art show before that.
Oh wow.
So I remember sitting there like just stunned, and my phone starts to ring. My office phone starts to ring, and people are saying to me, hello, is it true that John Entwistle's dead? And it was like,
I'm just hearing this myself. Wow.
You know, I am just, and I try to answer the questions, but I'm stunned.
You're stunned, like, yeah.
And I was I was just so blindsided, and I'm sitting in front of the television, and I see my name going across the crawl on the bottom, confirming that John was dead. It's like it was the most bizarre thing. I can't really
get it into words. Yeah, I mean, and here's a question, because of course we all know what he died of, now, and we don't need to get in. But here's a question.
Let me interrupt you there. Do we all know what he died of?
Well, I mean, the story at least has been that he overdosed on something. That was going to be my question. Is
absolutely not.
Okay.
What happened.
Okay.
John died from a heart attack.
Okay.
Did he have some cocaine? Yeah, he had some cocaine. He probably had some Remy Martin. I'm sure he smoked a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, okay.
And the reason that he had the heart attack is because he had major blockages in 3 of his 4 arteries to his heart.
Oh, wow.
And he would have had the same heart attack on stage. He would have had the same heart attack if he was down in the gym.
Yeah.
The only reason that you hear the story about the coke, there was coke on board, but that's not what killed him.
Wow.
His blocked arteries killed him.
Wow.
The coke, I'm sure, didn't help.
Yeah.
But he didn't overdose. John was a very controlled, very, very level-headed person, and he certainly didn't want to die. So,
it's interesting
I'm glad that I have the space to straighten that out a little bit.
So am I, because I tell you, it's amazing how things become like almost urban myths or legends. I mean, that was reported on the news about the cocaine. I've heard several people over years refer to his death as an overdose. I've heard people come out and say stuff like, he kept his addictions hid real well. So it's good to talk to somebody who was really close to him and knew that, because wow, I mean, it's amazing. All these years later, people are still believing that.
Well, they're believing it because it's easy to believe, and once you hear it, it's easy to remember.
Yeah.
You're not going to say, well, maybe he had too much fried chicken, or maybe maybe he went to wherever to. That John was a creature of habit. He loved the things that he loved, and don't forget something.
Yeah.
John Entwistle grew up in the rubble of bombed-out London.
Okay.
So when he finally got the chance to enjoy the finer things of life, whatever he decided those were, he went for it. And again, I'm not condoning the use of any of that stuff, but it's a bad label to hang on.
Oh, sure. It's
but that's what sells newspapers.
I'm glad we had the chance to clear that up, and we'll do everything we can to spread the word about that, because wow. Now the album title being Volume 1, is there any chance there will be a Volume 2? You think you have enough?
Without question, yeah. When I put the set together, when I got with Deco and we talked about what it was I wanted to do, I actually assembled in my mind's eye both volumes, knowing, because I don't want Volume 2 to be the last drips out of a sink.
Yeah.
I want that Volume 2 kicks as much butt or more than Volume 1. So I assembled the whole body of work and then decided how I wanted to break it up. So, Volume 2 is, it may actually have more live stuff on it, because I think people like the live stuff. But there are other things. There are unfinished tracks from a rock opera that he was writing. There's all kinds of stuff. So,
oh wow,
it'll be good. That's for sure.
And let me ask you, What are you doing these days, Steve? I mean, obviously keeping John's legacy alive, but like any chance that obviously John can't play live with you, but any chance that you would like take a band out with you, kind of to like do a tribute or something, playing some of these songs?
Well, I don't know that it would happen exactly like that. I'm a non-traditionalist.
Okay.
So for me, I mean, for me to do that, I don't think it would come near what anybody would expect it to be. You can't have a John Entwistle band without John Entwistle.
Yeah, obviously,
what I have entertained is doing a multimedia experience where, so it's not a traditional performance, but yet we would be able to play together and, and have a visually impactful and audio visual experience based on on his music, on my music, and the things that we did together and the things we wanted to do together beyond the point where we stopped abruptly. So I think that's what I'm working on. It's what I'm dedicated to, and then Deco has given me the opportunity to release the tracks, like some of the tracks that I produced and co-wrote with Brian Johnson, and then various artists, Robin Zander. They've offered me a nice home for that stuff, so I'm thrilled about that as well. Life is good and things are busy. I'm happy to be here.
That's something to look forward to. And just what you were just talking about, kind of the audio visual experience. I look forward to that. I mean, that you are a real visionary, sir, and I mean, I think that's why Mr. Entwistle is lucky to have you kind of in charge of his legacy, because if you're going to put out some kind of project or do some kind of performance, you want it to stand out. You don't want to be like everybody else.
No, you certainly don't. I mean, one of the things that I did recently, during the pandemic, I have a friend who I've been recording records with him for decades, and I always thought he sounded just like Roy Orbison.
Oh, wow.
And we wound up putting a band together around him and sending it out as a live documentary. So there's film of Roy Orbison, and the telling of all the stories is done in a high-definition presentation, and then the band is playing the music live. But again, that's my pursuit of something different and wanting to push the envelope a little bit. First live documentary. So
and real quick, because I haven't seen it myself, but I was just reading up on one of the first things you did to pay tribute to John was this film. It's called An Oxtail, the John Entwistle story. Was that released ever on DVD or Blu-ray, or can people?
If you go on, I'm pretty sure it's playing on Netflix or Amazon or Hulu. And it's An Ox's Tale, and actually I started that film with John.
Oh, wow.
The idea behind An Ox's Tale was John was getting ready to do a Who tour. And I've geared up for tours many times, and I've geared up for tours many times with John, so I know that there's a process. And I said, it would really be cool if we did like a documentary of the old soldier getting out the uniform and the gun, going back out to war. What's the preparation? How do you shake out your rig? Because every time John went out, it was a brand new rig that he was playing through. Usually a new guitar of some sort, and the guy was just always constantly pushing the envelope. So I said, we should really document this and talk about what it takes and so on and so forth. And he actually named it An Ox's Tale, T-A-L-E.
Appropriately,
clever as he is. So when he passed, the financing for the film, how that goes. It didn't get completed. And then years later, after John passed, somebody from the West Coast approached me about was I interested in finishing the film? And so I said that I was, and I wound up ringing everybody up and getting all those interviews. And if you see the film, that's actually, those people are talking with me. I don't count myself as an interviewer.
No, but
I'm ready to have a conversation with anybody. And, Pete was kind enough to give me some time right before the holiday that year, and his contribution to the film was very well received and, appreciated by all of us. So.
Wow.
It's out there on Oxhumed. You can, just
Okay.
search it.
Well, I'm gonna definitely check it out just because I'm such a huge John fan and the Who fan. But let's keep in touch, Steve, because I really enjoyed talking to you today. And as you can tell, I'm a person who loves music, loves talking about music, and sounds like you're the same way. So I definitely love to keep in touch and do it again. And any of your future projects, you always got a place to promote it. So just keep that in mind, okay?
Oh, I absolutely will, Jason. I enjoyed it myself, and this is my cell phone.
Yeah. Okay.
Reach out anytime.
I will do
the
that.
same thing, and we'll just one step at a time, right?
Oh, sure. And the interview we just did, I'm planning to post it, like I said, within the next 2 weeks. Once I have a date for you, I'll be sure to let Chip know, and feel free to share it on all your websites. And that's the final question. You want to let people know where they can find you online?
Well, they can find me. They can find my show, my live stream at Facebook.com/Drum Crusher.
Oh, wow.
And that's Rock and Roll Show and Tell is the name of the show. It's on Twitter, which is at Drum Crusher. It's on, let me see. It's on LinkedIn, Steve Luongo. It's on...
Okay, wow.
Steve Luongo. So, and they can always go to my website, steveluongo.com. As long as they spell it right, they'll get there.
Drum Crusher, I like that. That's something else we got to check out. So we will be sure to do that. You take care, Steve, and have a very Merry Christmas. And I'm pretty sure we'll be talking to you in the new year.
I'll look forward to it, Jason. Happy holiday, Merry Christmas. Be safe out there, my friend.
Hey, you too. Bye-bye. Have a nice day.
Thanks. Bye-bye. You too.
Chaotic Riffs Magazine.